Anya Kovalenko was just 18 when the war erupted in her hometown of Kharkiv. Until then, her world had been a small yet bright one. Morning walks to school through tree-lined streets, afternoons studying literature in the city library, and evenings spent helping her mother bake bread for their neighbors. She had dreams of becoming a translator, bridging cultures with words, and maybe one day traveling to the places she had only read about. But when the first distant explosions rattled her classroom windows, those dreams began to dissolve into the cold reality of survival. In the early weeks, her family tried to stay calm, believing the fighting would end soon. But the constant rumble of shelling and the wail of sirens became part of their daily routine. Anya's school closed indefinitely, and her textbooks gathered dust as she spent her days in the dim basement with her mother and younger brother. She tried to distract her brother with stories and drawings, but the fear in his eyes was a mirror of her own. Nights were the worst. Sleep was often broken by sudden blasts that shook the very foundations of their building. One morning, as she went outside to fetch water from a nearby well, she saw the street where she had walked to school reduced to rubble. The corner bakery where she used to buy warm pastries was nothing but a pile of shattered bricks. She recognized the bright red scarf tangled among the debris. It belonged to Mrs. Ivanova, the old baker who always gave her extra rolls when she came in after school. Anya stood frozen, her heart sinking with the realization that people she knew, people who were part of her small, safe world, might now be gone forever. Food grew scarce, and her mother rationed every meal. Sometimes they would go without bread for days, surviving on soup made from whatever vegetables could still be found. The once bustling market square was now eerily silent, the stalls abandoned. The city's familiar smells of baked bread and blooming lilacs were replaced with the acrid stench of smoke and burnt wood. Anya began to carry a small bag everywhere. Just a change of clothes, a photo of her family, and her high school notebook, because she never knew if she would have to flee at a moment's notice. One afternoon, the bombing came closer than ever. A missile hit the apartment block across from theirs, sending glass and dust into the air. Anya's ears rang, her vision blurred, and for a moment, she couldn't tell if she was screaming or if the world around her had gone completely silent. Pulling her brother close, she helped her mother grab whatever they could carry, and they joined the stream of neighbors running toward the train station. The trains were overcrowded, filled with mothers clutching children, elderly men with trembling hands, and young people like Anya, whose eyes held a mix of fear and disbelief. The journey to the western border felt endless. The train moved slowly, stopping often due to damaged tracks or air raid warnings. At night, Anya tried to sleep sitting up, her head resting against the cold window, but each distant boom jolted her awake. She watched the passing countryside, dotted with abandoned farms and blackened fields. Every mile they traveled seemed to take them further away from the life she had known, yet closer to a future that was uncertain and frightening. When they finally crossed into safety, Anya should have felt relief, but instead, she felt a hollow ache. She was safe from the bombs, yet she had left behind her father, who had stayed to defend the city. Her friends scattered in all directions, and the familiar streets of her childhood reduced to memory. In the refugee shelter, she tried to keep studying on her own, using the notebook she had carried all this time. But the words blurred when she thought of her father's last wave, his smile forced and his eyes heavy with worry. Anya's life became a series of waiting for news of her father, waiting for the war to end, waiting for a chance to return home. Each day, she reminded herself that she had to keep going, if not for herself, then for her mother and brother. Yet deep inside, she knew that even if the war ended tomorrow, the girl she had been before the first explosions would never fully return. War had taken her school, her friends, her peace of mind, and the simple belief that the future was hers to shape. All that remained was hope, fragile but unbroken, and the determination to survive, so that one day she might tell her story in her own words.